So a new analysis by the Cook Political Report shows why the country is seeing the number of swing districts in House elections shrink.
And this is what Charlie Sykes said last hour was leading to this extremism, gerrymandering.
According to the report, just 82 of the total 435 House districts fall into the swing seat category, which is a district that is plus or minus points in either direction toward a candidate. That number is down 50% from 164 seats in 1999. In addition, as of this Congress, only 5 Democrats and 4 Republicans are currently in seats where it is 3 points in either direction.
Let's bring in the author of that report, a House editor of the Cook Political Report, Dave Wasserman. Dave, you say it's not just gerrymandering. There is a sorting that has taken place. You can drive to any state in America. I don't care how blue it is. And if you get far enough out in rural communities, you're going to see Trump signs. There has been that sorting out. It's pretty dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah, look, Americans are voting with their feet, and the urban versus rural polarization we've seen in the last 30 years is responsible for most of the decline in competition in congressional elections. We have more and more hyper red and blue states, districts, counties. Even if you go down to the precinct level, people like to live near others who agree with their political and cultural values. And so what that's done is it's profoundly altered the incentive structure electorally for most members of Congress. They are not concerned about the next general election because it's a foregone conclusion. They're concerned about their primaries. And so the bulk of the competition that we're seeing for this next decade is going to be in states where you've had nonpartisan or bipartisan commissions or courts that have drawn political boundaries rather than partisan legislatures. That's why we're looking at races in Arizona and California and New York to determine control of the House this next cycle.
Dave, Al Sharpton, is that not resulting in not only you seeing a lack of competition in general elections because everyone's playing to their primary base, it also affects being able to get some legislation through because everyone has to vote their silo to win their primary rather than trying to find some common ground to get some legislation passed that we may have been able to negotiate or compromise in the past. There can be no negotiation or compromise when everyone has to play to a hardened base.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it's remarkable that Congress has gotten as much done as it has, given this reality in the last 3 years, that Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden were able to go around the back of Republican leaders and get 13 votes for an infrastructure bill, for example, or that you had, I believe, 39 House Republicans vote for the Respect for Marriage Act. And, that speaks to the fact that Republicans still do hold 18 districts that Joe Biden carried in 2020. And that's what Democrats see as their route back to the majority. The tough part for Democrats is that you have a couple of states, North Carolina and Ohio, that could actually see Republicans re-gerrymander the lines in time for 2024 because Republicans took back control of state Supreme Courts in the midterm elections.
So, Dave, let's talk about you bring up Hal Rogers, and it's fascinating. Hal is one of the few people that I served with when he was chairman that's still around. His district has changed radically. You talk about how it used to lean pretty hard Democratic, working class, coal country. Now it's about as hard right as it gets. I'm just curious. There in 2008, Barack Obama would go out into counties in Iowa that he may not have had a chance to win, but he would go out there to keep it competitive. Can Democratic candidates still do that even 13, 14 years later, or are those counties gone?
Well, consider who leads the Democratic Party culturally. You have a president and vice president from the East and West Coast. The Democratic leadership in Congress has been from New York or San Francisco. And there are fewer and fewer voices in the upper echelon of the party who truly represent the rural fringes of the country or can speak to how voters in Rock Island or Des Moines feel. And so it's become harder for Democrats, clearly. But what we have seen recently is that the abortion issue is crushing Republicans among voters who have long been pro-choice, but kind of drifted from the Democratic Party. Think non-church-going or secular blue-collar women, especially. That's why we see the outcomes we did in Wisconsin, going back to the referendum in Kansas. And so, as long as this remains prominent in the debate the next few years, Democrats do have an opportunity to reconnect with these voters based on their long-standing hostility to Republicans on over-moralizing.
Dave Wasserman, thank you very much for being on this morning.